The Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office will not enforce this segment of the order. The temporary ban challenges the foundations of our Constitution, but most importantly, it is unconstitutional. My oath was to protect the Constitution, and that is what I will do.
The sheriff of New Mexico's most populous county joined the growing ranks of critics pushing back against Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham. Her temporary suspension of gun rights in the state drawing fierce bipartisan backlash. But she's adamant she's on constitutional ground.
Well, we're going to see. I mean, look, I wouldn't do it if I didn't think I had the right. I have the right.
Where is the right? Where is the right?
In the state of New Mexico. Public health, it's a suspension. It's not a ban. And we'll see what all of these court actions do.
Let's bring in former New Jersey governor and now presidential candidate Chris Christie. A lot of questions about this, and she has been pushed back on by Democrats who are saying this right doesn't exist. But I have a feeling, Governor, you're going to see many more governors, perhaps on the left and the right, if she gets away with this, declaring emergency. So, number one, what do you think on the merits of this and what she's trying to declare? And number two, if you were president and a governor tried this, what would you do?
Well, first off, she's not going to succeed here, Dana. This is so clearly and blatantly unconstitutional that I think it'll be knocked down. This is nothing more than a public relations ploy by a governor who's having some trouble in her own state, understands how politically unpopular her border policies are, how politically unpopular violent crime that's going on in New Mexico and across the country is, and she's attempting to cater to the grandstand. It's not going to work, and I think what you're going to see are the federal courts are going to come in here and are going to stop her from doing this stuff, and you see pushback even from people in her own party, as you mentioned, in the state of New Mexico who say, you don't have the right to do this. Now, I was a governor, and I'm for governors having, real authority to be able to make sure the quality of the life in their state is excellent, the people are safe, and law and order is enforced, but not by violating the Constitution. This is clearly violating the Constitution, and she needs to be reprimanded for it. If
there is a desire, and there is, to reduce gun violence in the country, that this is her approach, what would be yours?
How about enforcing the laws that we already have, Dana? You look at the major cities and now moving into some of the smaller cities in this country. We're not doing our jobs as law enforcement officers on the prosecution side. Police officers are being put in an awful position of a revolving door justice system. And as president, what I would do is order my attorney general in all of the cities where there is runaway violent crime, and we know which ones they are: San Francisco, Los Angeles, Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, are just some of them, to make the U.S. attorneys in those cities take over the enforcement of violent crime if the prosecutors won't. And we have plenty of room in federal prison for people who are committing these violent acts and ruining the quality of life in America's great cities. America can't be a great country, Dana, if we don't have great cities. And as president, what I'll do is make sure that we enforce the law at the federal level if there are Soros-backed prosecutors who won't do it in cities across this country.
There's another example, it's the second topic I wanted to get to, and that is of the federal government not performing its duties, and that is on the southern border. And because of that, there is your state to the north, New York, or is it to the east? New York. 18,000 migrant students have joined the public schools this year. The teachers cannot handle it. The parents are upset. The students are going to suffer. Yes, Mayor Adams has started to call out the Biden administration, but at this point, what do you think should be done? Because these 18,000 kids, they're not leaving. And their parents, if they were giving any orders, they said basically show up to court in 3 to 5 years. What should be done?
Right. Look, there's plenty of blame to go around here, Dana, starting initially with Joe Biden's rhetoric during the 2020 campaign. He made it clear to folks that he was going to open the border and everybody could come across, whether they were doing so legally or illegally. And so that's the first thrust we've had. He's taken away the border protections that we had prior to that. Secondly, we can't not place blame on folks like Mayor Adams and governors like my governor, Phil Murphy, who declared themselves to be sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. Well, they did that when there was no cost to it, because we were controlling the southern border much better than we're doing today. Now, when there are costs to it, like what you just talked about, 18,000 new children in New York City public schools, now Mayor Adams is up in arms. Look, you should have never made yourself a sanctuary city to begin with. And so what we need to do, and what I'll do on first day as president, is to sign an executive order which sends the National Guard down to the border. We're going to interdict the fentanyl that is killing 110,000 of our citizens last year, now the leading killer between the ages of 18 and 34, and send a brand new message on immigration, that the border is not open, and that we're going to do everything we can, including finishing the wall that Donald Trump never got done, only 52 miles of wall in 4 years. I mean, he'd need another 110 years as president to complete the wall at that pace. So we've had failures in both administrations. The Biden failure has been significantly worse. And these mayors and governors who are pandering by calling themselves sanctuary cities and states, well, now they know what it means to be a sanctuary city in New York, and it means the degradation of quality of life for every student in the New York City public school system.
Yep. Let me ask you a foreign policy question, because today we found out that Kim Jong-un has boarded his train. He is on his way to meet with Vladimir Putin in Russia. So is there a new axis of evil being formed?
Well, of course there is. And I've been talking about this. What's going on in Ukraine right now is a proxy war being quarterbacked by China and funded by China. You don't think Kim Jong-un's getting on that train without President Xi of China's permission to do so. They are a client state of China. And they are all getting together along with the mullahs in Iran, which Joe Biden has now just funded with an additional $6 billion, incredibly, that he's releasing to the Iranian autocracy. I mean, this is the new group: Iran, China, North Korea, Russia. That's why we need to arm the Ukrainians. They need to push back on the Russians, not allow Putin to continue to do what he's doing. And by the way, this shows the sophistry, Dana, of the foreign policy approach of Trump and DeSantis and Ramaswamy. They think, after watching this meeting today between Putin and Kim Jong-un, that they're going to be able to go over there and convince Putin that he should walk away from China and North Korea. They're all committed communists. He's a former KGB operative. These are communists who are working in concert together to try to dominate the world and harm the United States and our allies. We need to have a foreign policy that is tough and smart and arms the Ukrainians to beat back the Russians and sends a message to the Chinese, the North Koreans, and the Iranians. And believe me, a Christie administration would have never released $6 billion to the Iranians, not ever.
Well, you and your competitors will be on the debate stage September 27th, just in about a couple of weeks. So I look forward to that and to seeing you there. Thank you, Governor. I appreciate it. That's September 27th, at the Ronald Reagan Library.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.